How's it going, everyone? And welcome to US Rugby Solutions. Today we're going to talk about collegiate governance. And I'll link the article that brought this thing to fruition and made me want to rant about some stuff that was posted by USA Rugby. Basically, what happened there was in Division 1 Collegiate Women's Rugby, there were regional competitions that the loser went into the Division 1 pathway for a championship, and the winner of each regional went into the Division 1 Elite Championship pathway. Basically, one's the plate semifinal, and one's the actual cup semifinal. So that's a problem for me. My best analogy for that is, even in Little League, at T-ball, the parents may not keep score, but the kids do. So, let's get into it. Collegiate governance. Only women's rugby is an NCAA sport under NIRA. And those 15, 16, and 2018, Notre Dame College, who lost in their regional, is becoming an NCAA rugby school for women's rugby in 2018. So that's going to be pretty cool. Fall under NCAA governance. So they don't really have a responsibility to Title IX and providing, a ratio of bodies per se. So the colleges tend to dislike a top-down approach from USAR because there seems to be a lot of bad blood within the collegiate game and top-down approaches over a long period of time. And I don't really need to get into that. But so to the point where currently, over the past couple of years, you have the official D1A pathway, and then you also have the Varsity Cup pathway, which was created by a bunch of like-minded institutions. And if you've seen over this last year, a bunch of schools have left the Varsity Cup, and a few have been kicked out of the Varsity Cup. And to me, there's not really a clear governance of that. And part of it's just democracy because they created it together, so they voted. But here's where USAR needs to establish a unified amateur window across all levels. So that we need to do that first. And then the union needs to wrangle governance of collegiate rugby. There needs to be a conference of all member schools that play collegiate rugby with the union. And within that, they need to establish clear guidelines of what creates a D1A, D1AA, a Division II, and a Division III program that makes sense. Because right now, I'll show you what is there. I'll link it below. There really isn't much. And then what makes a Division I women's program is even weirder. Like, tenure of coach is not something that should determine what makes a Division I program. Now, full-time head coaching position should be something that plays into that. And then they need to execute on this alignment conference, because you shouldn't really be aligned necessarily with your Division I conference, because not all of the schools that are within that Division I conference play at the same level. So now let's get into what I would like to see as what makes a Division 1A program. So this would be the elite competition within Division 1. You have Division 1A and Division 1AA. Just like in collegiate football, where you have FBS and FCS, except the difference is you would have a fixed number of Division 1A and Division 1AA schools. because these are the high-end competitions for rugby in the United States and along the collegiate pathway. And the things I'm going to say would also apply to women's rugby that are aligned as a club sport and not going towards NCAA sanctioning. So what would a Division 1A program look like? I would say, let's say the top 64 programs, and then you align them in conferences and regions. You have an East versus West, and then you have a playoff of 16 teams. So, full-time head coach, part-time assistants, aligned under the athletic department. Athletic department training, med staff, in support of rugby. So that means doctors, athletic trainers, and a strength coach. And then then you get into finance, so strong club financing. You have a club endowment, alumni association supporting that, and funding from student life as a club sport. And then part of that is number of players within the organization. And also training facilities. What kind of training facilities do they got dedicated to rugby? Division 1 AA. You would have a full-time head coach, volunteer assistants, alignment under student life as a club sport with student life funds. You have athletic department support, doctors and athletic trainers, access to facilities. But not necessarily, having a strength coach. You need doctors and athletic trainers, period. That's period. But these would come from the athletic department. Number of players within the program. Division 2. A part-time head coach. Volunteer assistants. Funding from student life and, again, aligned as a club sport. Then you have volunteer physician and athletic trainers, access to student life and training facilities. So the student life training facilities that, regular students can go. You just have reserved times and stuff. Number of players within the program and good club finances. Not necessarily an endowment, but student life funds and club dues and some alumni support to make sure that you're meeting above whatever it costs to fund that program. And then Division 3 would be a volunteer head coach, volunteer assistants, alignment with student life, but funded as a club, not necessarily a club sport. Volunteer physicians and athletic trainers. That's pretty much it. So, alignment should be a pyramid. D1A is the elite. D1AA is those that are trying to become elite. D2 are those that are trying to become D1AA. And D3 are those trying to compete, those starting out, those trying to move towards Division 2. Currently, right now, divisional systems under USA Rugby, like I said, I'll link down below, is sort of based on your NCAA division. And that's not necessarily the smart thing. Because funding is vastly different across all programs, that there could be a Division 3 program in athletics that has a competitive, a program that is competitively equitable to play in D1A for rugby, since it is a club activity. Look at, say, Life University. So, promotion relegation systems. Required number of wins in a defined period to remain in your division. Promotion, winning a championship or being in a number of semifinals in a defined period. Establish commissioners for each level of play at USAR and a development officer reporting to the CEO. because you're going to need administrators to administer these competitions, more than just one, because I think there's 2 people aligned, and maybe it's 4, for all of collegiate rugby. There needs to be 1 at least per division. And although I've laid out these requirements, there could be and this is just what I would choose, there could be a Division III program that is currently playing in Division 1A based on the requirements I've laid out that is as competitive as Cal, BYU, and Life. And then it's on USA Rugby to maintain them as a Division 1A program, but also work with the program and the college to move them towards that Division 1A pathway so that they're solvent, so that they can continue to grow the game at the collegiate level. So once this is aligned and in control, I think we'll see a good direction. But until the union and the colleges work together in concert towards creating a better competition, it will just be a crazy animal that isn't necessarily aligned to grow the game and provide a pathway for young players. So, and that is where we're at with US Rugby solutions for the collegiate game. Like and subscribe, and check back for more.